I think, yeah, success is saying, okay, this is my art and I cherish it.
Yeah.
Musicians are struggling more now than I think ever. When I say this, I'm saying it's not an Italian dish. When you think of it in terms of like ethnomusicology, to be in a community of musicians in Berlin because they all have a different perspective on.
I'm sitting here with Levi Lamberjack, a singer-songwriter from the States. He's now based in Berlin, and he played a really nice song for us. So welcome, Levi.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Great. I'm
Yeah.
glad to be here.
Nice. So, like, what do you think? What kind of food suits the mood of the song you just played?
Actually, oh man, okay. Can I tell a story? I this song was written on a cruise ship that I worked on, and I wrote it a week after I had gotten food poisoning from eating catfish. When I play this song, I think of that catfish, which is
The
bad,
catfish
but
on the ship.
yeah, on the ship. And yeah, I mean, the song has sort of a sour feeling to it. I mean, the catfish was good, but it hurt me in the end,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I guess that's probably where I would put it. But yeah.
What was it like to work on a cruise ship?
It was, there were the good parts and the bad parts about it. Like the good parts was like I got to see so much of the United States through that. It was on the Mississippi River.
Oh, nice.
Tons of like cute little towns, and also we went through where like they say Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil, like these different music like spots. I saw the National Bluegrass Museum, hung out on Beale Street in Memphis, hung out in New Orleans, like all these really strong music places. So that part was good, but the isolation maybe of it like was a bit strange. And you would go for 4 weeks, and then at the end you'd be off for 4 weeks with nothing to do. So that was pretty tough. But overall, it was an okay experience. Yeah, decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking more about food, like, do you have when you have guests at home? Do you have like a signature dish you make for them, or you're more like the takeout kind of guy?
I yes and no. It depends on the time of the year. In the wintertime, I love making like cream-based pastas and bread for my friends. Like this is not when I say this, I'm saying it's not an Italian dish. But fettuccine alfredo is something that I make with a lot of love
It's
when
with
I have
butter,
friends
right?
over with butter and parmesan
Oh yeah,
and also cream.
yeah.
So it's very American, but just it's kind of like comfort food. In the summer, I love grilling. We'll grill like zucchini, and put some like a dry rub on it.
All right, nice.
Yeah, and I also love smoking meat, like ribs and chicken and things like that. So yeah.
That sounds like a good dinner parties at your
Yeah, no,
place.
I love hosting when I can. Yeah.
Nice. Because you've been in Berlin now for a year, you said. Like, what brought you to Germany?
Yeah, music. When I was in high school, I had some German exchange students from Oranienburg, which is just north of Berlin, and I also came and stayed with them for a bit at the time, and I fell in love with the city like right away. And I knew like back then, 2016, 2017, that I would be back, and also knowing that music was a big part of my life. I was like, okay, I think I have to I have to move here. And yeah, and also just I saw the community and the yeah, I want to be able to help people and support people. So that's yeah, what I love about this city. That's why I moved here.
Nice. Because how did you get into music? Like, was there like a defining moment where you were like, I want to be a musician?
Yeah. I grew up in the church, and it's still the probably the most important part of my life is my faith. And I was I don't remember how it happened, but I was tempted into joining the children's choir at my church when I was in second grade, and the choir director's name is Don Worley. He's still around, and he's still a big influence on me. Like, kind of taught me to find my voice, and was very encouraging. And so yeah, like I knew I wanted to be a musician ever since I was 8, 9 years old when I started singing in the choir.
I think you can hear it actually in the way you sing. It
Oh,
makes
really?
sense.
Thanks.
Yeah. Because like you have like the low parts and the high parts, and it's all with a lot of volume, you know?
Yeah.
It's like really full. So I
Oh, thank
think, I
you.
mean, that sounds like a choir.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I was in choirs all throughout, my childhood and even into, university. I studied voice, and so I had to be part of an ensemble there, and the choir was obviously the natural thing to do, so I love it. I don't sing in a choir anymore, but I still yeah, I love it, especially when it comes to, like, sacred, music and when I get to praise, on a Sunday morning at church. I love singing in a choir. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And because you're obviously a songwriter as well,
Mhm.
apart from being a good choir singer, how do you approach songwriting? Do you have like a process how you write or?
Um, yeah, my process is kind of no process, like, in a way, like, I write when my body tells me I need to, like, if I need to process, like, an emotion or if I need to, journal or list out a story. Unfortunately, that usually happens around 3 a.m. Is when most of the songs come out, because that's when my mind is racing and I can't sleep and I have to, like, get it out somehow, you know? Um, so I kind of just write, when I'm prompted to by my mind or by my body, because I yeah, um, sometimes I set goals, and those are usually where I feel the most mechanical, like, the songs are just kinda bare bones, but then later on, they'll come back, and I'll be able to finish them and bring new meaning to them, if that makes sense. Like, I'll write a song, and then a year later, I'll remember that and be like, "Oh, this is actually very important to what I'm going through now. Let me go back and, like, write that again," and that's usually how a song ends up forming. Takes a long time, but it
Is it music first or lyrics first?
um, I get asked this a lot, and the thing is, like, it's kind of both at the same time. Like, I I kinda come up with maybe an intro for it and then let it kind of go after that. But so it's kind of both. Like, I like them to be very much together in the process. So sometimes I'll think of a lyric first and then I'll write a melody to it, but most of the time they're kinda just like, yeah, together.
What are your inspirations, like like sound wise or musically? I
Mhm.
mean, you told me you were in punk as well, but also lyrically, do you have like certain topics you write about, or can it be like anything?
Yeah, like genres, I kind of I pull from a lot of different things, um, and it depends on the time. Like, right now, I, have been listening to a lot of Bessie Smith. She's, a recording artist from a long time ago. She, like, in my opinion, is, like, the mother of the blues. Like, her songs are so, gut-wrenching and even in some ways, like, morbid, but you can just feel her, like, you can feel her emotion, like, through her songs, and I really like that, and the material is just great, but also, traditional folk music is a big part of who I am and what I do. People like, Basker Lamar Lumsford, who, um, collected a bunch of songs, Lead Belly, who else? Dave Van Ronk is a big inspiration because he kinda does the same thing that I do. He took a bunch of, traditional songs that people may have forgotten about and gave them new life. Musically, I would say Reverend Gary Davis, is a big, inspiration because of the way he plays. It's just so, simple, but so difficult at the same time, if that makes sense. Yeah, like a lot of blues artists and a lot of, traditional folk songs as well. That's where I pull inspiration from. And we talk like, the topics are a lot of the same thing. I mean, it's the blues, right? So, they
Happy
take
songs.
yeah, very happy, very light. No, they take, like, really, like, hard times in their lives, um, and they write about it, and they also sing about God a lot, which I find, to be very, relatable as well, because my music is for me, it's a cry out to God, whatever that means, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny with music because like I listen to a lot of music, a lot of different artists, I think, but then you just name a list of people and I barely know any one of them. And they're all probably really good, but I'm like, Jesus, like I have no idea.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's kinda what happens when you think of it in terms of, like, ethnomusicology. Like, you wanna, like, I don't know, you wanna just dive deeper and you wanna find out where these songs come from, and I mean, it's a hole that you'll never be able to get out of.
I mean, that's also why people sound different, though, right?
Yeah.
Because like in the end, you sound like the stuff you listen to. I mean, especially there's been some research that you especially sound like people you listen to when you're like 14, 15, 16,
Yeah.
you know? So like I can't really shake that off really, you know? Like sometimes I'm like, I wish I could write a song like this, but it always ends up like very like verse chorus because I was always just like listening to the Beatles and bands that were inspired by the Beatles, you know?
Yeah, that makes
So
sense, yeah. When you were playing earlier, I was like, "Oh, okay. I see why you like the Beatles so much." But that's a good thing, like,
yeah.
you take it's sort of like what were those things that you used to dig a hole and a time capsule.
Yeah.
Like, you dig a hole and then you bring it up and it's still the same stuff that you liked and that you enjoyed, and it's really cool how that reflects in my music. But I think when I was 14 or 15, it was like Mumford& and Sons.
Yeah, but I mean,
Like,
to be honest, like when you
yeah.
play that, that's like, I mean, it's not like in a different universe. It's
Yeah.
definitely not on the same planet, but it's definitely in the same universe, you know,
Right.
like chord wise but I think that's where your base then is, and then you obviously like even like being in Berlin, some electronic influences like in my music, you know, it's all seeps
Yeah,
through a
sure.
little bit. Yeah, so like Berlin, does that influence your music or the way you write, the city, or has it been too short for that yet?
You know what? In a way, yeah. I think because there are artists here that sort of just naturally, like, inspire you in some ways, like, they look at music in a certain way, you're like, "Oh, man, I didn't even think about that." Like, I didn't even look at the song in that way, and I think, yeah, like, it's really nice to be in a community of musicians in Berlin because they all have a different perspective on, like, what the color of a song is, or even what type of brush to use, if that makes sense. Like, some people say, like, it's so important to, look at the song like it's, an extension of yourself, or it's so important to look at the song like it's, uh even, like, far away, like, or it's important to put yourself in the shoes of where you were when you wrote it, and everyone has a different opinion and a different experience, and I think that's what shapes my songwriting the most, 'cause I get to, visualize it a little bit differently with every, like, person I talk to and with every person that looks at my music and, analyzes it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what are the pros and cons for you in like being an independent artist in Berlin?
Um, the pros are is that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that are doing the same thing, and you get to sort of like be with each other in the struggle, and also and you get to celebrate with each other when things are going well. The cons are is that people don't value art. Like, protections are being rolled back for musicians to make a living off of their art.
Yeah.
Um like, big corporations are dominating the independent artist scene, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
Um, Musicians are struggling more now than I think, ever when it comes to, um, doing this as a job and doing this as a livelihood because they're not protected
Yeah.
by organizations that should be protecting them.
Yeah. I think I mean it's almost everywhere pay to play if you really want to do it in a venue. And then you just carry a risk of like 700, 800 bucks.
Yeah.
Which is like I mean it can be fine if you have a stable job, but like it's
Or a stable following.
yeah,
Yeah.
but still it's a risk. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you define then success as an independent artist?
Success as an independent artist, yeah. I would say that, well, I feel like I've already succeeded. I'll just start out with that.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of, like, monetary, like, value or in the sense of like following or fans or content or engagement or whatever. I've succeeded because I can take my art, like the art that I've played and the art that I've put together and the art that I've curated, and I can look at it and say, this is me. That's it. Like, I think this might be controversial, I guess, but I think an artist succeeds when they can look at themselves and not hate what they put out.
Yeah.
But it's okay to be critical. Like, but I think it's success in this industry is when you can really look at your art and say, this is what I'm putting out for the world, and um, it may make me uncomfortable, but and I may not like that people see me in this vulnerable space or like this vulnerable time, but I'm gonna do it anyways.
Yeah.
And I am okay with whatever comes from that. Whether it's yeah, a couple people comment and they say, "Oh, good job," the thumbs up, or you sell out the Uber Eats arena or whatever. Like I think, yeah, success is saying, "Okay, this is my art and I cherish it."
Yeah.
Because and it takes a long time to be able to say that as an artist. Because you start out with that fire, right? Like, you start out with saying, like, "Okay, this is what I wanna do, and I love it." But then you have and we were talking about this earlier, like, you have, people who come and tell you no,
Yeah.
and they come and tell you you're not good enough, and they come and tell you this person is better than you, and I think every musician goes through this time, and it can last a couple days or it can last years where they're just, like, questioning, "Oh, am I good enough at this? Am I like, am I good enough at what I do? Should I quit?" And the answer is, honestly, no, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Like,
But who is?
but who
Yeah.
is?
Yeah.
And chase that, if you chase that as your level of success, um, it's like Sisyphus pushing a boulder up a mountain. It's just gonna fall back down.
No, but I agree with you. Like, I think separating it from the outcome is like the biggest thing you can do.
It's a nasty world.
And there's always gonna be people who find you shit anyway. I mean, even like the Beatles, there's people who find them shit. You know. You, yeah.
No,
Well,
I'm just
I
kidding.
mean,
The Beatles aren't my favorite, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But that's
I
what I
don't find them
mean.
shit,
That's
but
what,
you
like,
get what
for
I'm
me, I
saying.
have the same with the Rolling Stones. I like, I
Yeah.
don't understand the fuss about that, you know. But like, there's a lot of people who live for it, so that's you just have to accept that, I think. And then, I mean, after a year here, you've started your own sessions here. I mean, you've been doing that for a few months now. Like, how do you approach that?
That's kind of a good question. Like I am quite careful about who I book for what night because I don't necessarily want the artist to be the same,
Right.
even the same genre, but I do want them to be compatible in the sense that like their music can sort of be played in a way where people are like, "Oh, I don't have like whiplash," from this. Like, um, but no, I love picking artists who put out a piece of art that is meaningful to them, and I can tell by looking at them like, oh, they mean this,
Right.
and they feel this. And I really like that because if it can captivate me, like it can captivate other people, and they can come into it and they can say like, "Oh man, this like really touched me," and it builds a community that way. It doesn't matter if you started playing music a year ago or if you've been playing music for 35 years. Like I think it's important that yeah, people have a space to give their voice, and I think that's the vision for the Ratsaput sessions, and it's a great and intimate space to do that too. Like it's like a proper viewing room. Like people aren't sitting at tables looking at each other. Like there's chairs like that people sit in, and you can sit on the floor, or you can stand, and it's a very intimate space.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, because you play a lot yourself as well. Do you have any rituals that you have before getting on stage, that, like, to calm the nerves or hype yourself up?
I pray.
Okay.
That's my biggest thing. Because like without God in my life means nothing.
Yeah.
So that is what like my my first thought is like I want to have a moment with my savior, you know, before I go up on stage. I also, this is funny, but I also try to eat a bag of potato chips
I love potatoes. Yeah,
because they sort of coat my
yeah, your vocal
my
cords.
vocal cords, and they're just tasty.
That's like the new crack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, potato chips or something.
Yeah. You have like a taste as well, like a like
Salt.
okay.
Yeah, those are the ones I eat before the show.
Yeah.
Not anything like spicy. Just
That would be that.
salt. Yeah.
Yeah, having played in the States and here, is there like a significant difference in terms of how audiences react to music or how scenes were?
Yes. Glad you asked. Uh, when I played music in the US, well, when I first started, it was a big, a small but a big house show scene, and I'm very lucky to when I started like writing my own songs and singing with other like songwriters. I was very lucky because that space was very welcoming, and shout out to the Anderson, Indiana music scene because I mean, like they were very formative in how I play now and how I interact with my music now. At the time when I did music more as a full-time gig, those house shows were a lot harder to come by. And if they were, like, you know, I also had to pay the bills. So you play at a lot of like breweries and things like that. And essentially I was a jukebox. A lot of times they weren't actually listening. Sometimes they were. Sometimes you could really get people involved, and there were a ton of different venues where that happened. But I think what's so great about Berlin is that there's sort of an expectation. Like if a venue has a live musician that night, the people that are in the bar respect that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't, but the best part is that Berlin is also a place where if they don't, normally the artist has the power to say, "Hey, there's another room if like you want to talk," or like, you know, there's a level of respect here for the, the artist and also the venue for like bringing in the artist, you know, and for the people involved.
Nice.
So yeah,
This is a good bridge actually to the recommendation section of this show. So first of all, we'll start with venues. Do you have like a venue you would like to pitch?
Ratzaputs in Neukölln every third Tuesday of the month.
Very good.
We have that's very selfish of me, but every third Tuesday of the month we have a singer songwriter night where we take two different artists from the city and beyond, and yeah, we showcase their music and give them the space to play. Also, I am a big fan of the Open Sofa sessions. Connor Kilkelly is a great friend of mine. He hosts this every Friday at Hank Chinesky's in Wedding. 800A is also another place where people can go, and it's hosted by Rory Riley and Karen McBain. Um, great, great fellas, and it's always a good night there. Yeah, those are the main ones that I'm thinking of for like open mics and things like that. Also really enjoy Prachtwerk. They have really professional gigs and also open stage there, which is really nice.
And about the restaurants, do you have one that you would like to recommend us?
Yeah, can I forgot the name of it already. I have to look it up. Yes. So, I am a foodie. Uh I just almost as much as I love music, I also love coffee.
Yeah.
So I'm always a big fan of going to different coffee shops in the city. For example, my favorite one right now is called Kuno 15. It's in Charlottenburg, and they have great coffees and croissants. And during the summer, they have a very wide arrangement of ice cream. So that's the best like the best coffee shop in the area that I live in. And I also love different coffee shops and different roasteries like Populous and but I will say my favorite restaurant so far in Berlin is actually a Nepalese place.
Okay.
In Schöneberg. It's called Himali.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's like
That's I think yeah. That was like my go-to lunch place actually.
yeah, it's
The like, do you
insane.
remember the guy who like the guy who was always whistling?
It's best, yeah.
He's gone there though, I think. Or
Really?
maybe he came back, but like there was definitely a period of time that he left. And now
Okay.
they have a restaurant here somewhere in Charlottenburg. But that was like
Really?
yeah.
Oh man, this is such a good restaurant, and I've only been there once, but it was like a month ago.
Yeah.
But you remember it so much that it's like I cannot wait to go back there. And so far, it's been my favorite
Yeah.
like dining experience in Berlin has been Humali.
Yeah, it's a good vibe.
Schöneberg.
Yeah. Nice. And then a few artist recommendations, like 3 or 4.
Yeah. Um, a couple of my favorite artists in the city are Jess Christiana, as well as Connor Kilkelly, Jamie Collier. Yeah, just a bunch of great musicians who. Win Orn is another one. Like they're just musicians who really like they're very intentional with their craft. And yeah, I really James Michael Rogers is another one. Yeah, just a bunch of people that I really enjoy spending time with and hearing. Yeah.
If we would talk again in a year, where will you be? Like, what will have happened in your music adventure?
By next year, I'll have an EP out,
Okay.
and then I'll be working on an album at that point. Um, and yeah, just doing the same thing, going and doing shows, playing open mics, writing some more, also curating. I think that's what this next year will be a lot for me is curating different tunes from the past and bringing some new life to them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we got it. Thanks a lot for your time.
Of course.
For your answers.
Glad to be here.
And then we'll see each other in a year.
Yeah. I'll see you in a year. Yeah.